Ladies, welcome to Art of Noise Canvas Conversations. Something a little unique this month as we draw a closing to Women's History Month. I am excited to bring Greta, yourself, Red, to the center stage and kind of like talk our stuff about women in the arts, our own history, right? How we're making history, how are we showing up in art as artists, as a canvas, right? But I would love for us to kind of just let it all hang out today, if that's okay with you ladies. Let your hair down, as we have this conversation about women in the arts and what we do best. So, ladies, please introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Well, I'm Greta Chapin-McGill. I am a painter, and I do art restoration, framing, all of those types of things. I try to do whatever I can to keep my creativity rolling. I also write, and anything in that makes me feel good as being creative.
Right.
That is what I do, and try to make a little money at it.
Of course. Red, who are you, sister? Who are you?
I'm a lot of things, but my name is Wondemu, aka Red. I go by Red. I'm an artist photographer. A lot of my work focuses on taking photographs and turning it into art by making handmade prints, which is for me printing it in a darkroom like they used to back in the day.
Yeah.
And I focus on making silver gelatin prints, platinum prints, cyanotide prints, and thank you so much for inviting me to this talk.
Of course. I mean, when I thought of women in the arts, I could not help but think of you ladies, of course. And Greta being the current exhibition, it was like it's only right to bring the featured artists. Again, as you can see, there's a lot of art behind us. This is Greta's work, who has a whole month to go. So we are not done. We're not done yet. But I want us to kind of dive into this idea, and sisters, you both take it as you see fit. What is the relevance of your work currently? Like, why does your work matter? Why?
Well, I think art matters. Art matters totally, because you can't really have a society, a humanity, without art. Art is a reflection of what's going on in the world. Like the pieces that I have here behind me, these pieces are reflective of what's happening here, what's happening around me.
Right.
My goal is to tell the story of my time, of what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I'm seeing. And I think that in these times, which are highly charged and highly political, that all of these things are important, and it's important that we leave this legacy, because before us, every generation before us has left the legacy of their art, and it tells the story when they are not here to physically talk and tell the story. So I think it's important, and I think as women, we have a very unique story to tell, because there would be no humans if it wasn't for us.
Thank you for sharing that. So people forget.
So I think that it's important that we recognize that as women we have a very, very unique story to tell.
Right.
And this whole entire industry of art has been a male-dominated industry for a long time. And I think that as women we need to stand up and say, hey, look, we're here too, and we're doing great work.
Right.
We're doing great things, interesting things. And I just think that it's important that we make that known.
Yeah. I agree with that. You mentioned your art is political. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, politics is really what makes humanity human. Because we've divided ourselves into sections, into cities, into states, into countries, and they have levels of structure, levels of rules that we all live by, and those rules are political. I mean, most lawyers, they take political science is their BA, and then they go to law school to make laws to make this society have structure and run better. So within that structure, you've got things that happen, like you have the police force, you have politicians, and all of these things just affect our lives. If you have a political structure like in this little neighborhood that we're in, so what are you going to do if something happens in your neighborhood? If the water main breaks, you're going to call downtown, and what's downtown? Political.
Right.
So that could translate into, I'm watching the water main break and I see water all over the street, and I'm looking at the patterns of the water and the colors of the water, and I could conceivably do a painting that would reflect that. So is that political? Yes, it is political.
Right, what's your thoughts on like art is political?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question for me, I think. I personally like to separate myself from politics. Most of you know that I am from Ethiopia, and it's really hard when you want to use your art as a political statement, right? There's repercussion actually for that. Even as a photographer, to go out on the streets and photograph could be difficult and seen as like a, I guess in a political sense, maybe you're not allowed because they think that you're going to misuse images. So for me, I think going back to the first question, for me the reason why I create, why I think my work is relevant, again, just like you said, is this idea of telling a story, right? For the longest time I had this longing to tell my own story.
Right.
And the people that inspired me, the work that they did, like Irving Penn or Richard Avedon, they did not look like me, but their work, their photographs, the way they created and made images and printed, I found inspiration from. So this longing that I had to tell my own story about women that look like me. And most of my photos are of women. I do photograph men too, but not to veer so far away from the topic. For me, it's about sharing my story, telling the truth of who we are. And if you look at my portraits, the women will tell you what they need to tell you about their experiences.
Very much.
And that could be political, that could, because there is a lot of influence, a patriarchal influence, that we could say is political or whatever, and sort of manifests itself in that realm. But to me, I don't get into these topics that could maybe take away from the story I'm trying to tell. And I'm very protective, actually, of how, I let the people interpret what they want to interpret when they look at my art. But I'm very protective that they don't misunderstand or mislabel my work.
Mislabeling is interesting, right? I think oftentimes what we find in women history is that we are being told how we are feeling, what we are seeing, what that experience is, on down to how laws should be made around us to keep us in line. And I think the same rule applies to art. And there's something about this word I love. It's called rage. It's something that happens when you're sleeping. I want to go there. Rage happens all the time in women. It looks very differently on every single woman. And I think artists are constantly in a state of rage when they're creating. What are your thoughts about that, though? Because I know when I create, I'm mad at something, but I'm also happy and joyous and want to feel love and want to present love. And when I write, I want people to feel like they are a part of my story, like they're right next to me. We're reading this story together. But what are your thoughts as far as the rage you may feel? It looks very, very different from photo to photo, from canvas to canvas, what about that rage? Like, what does it mean to you?
Well, I mean, you can take a topic that makes you very angry, that you're thinking about it, but you have to, I have to take that topic and speak to the canvas in my own language, not in someone else's language. So if I'm enraged about something, or it's going to come out with the way I do it, which is I'm looking for the beauty in that rage. Like I'm trying to move all of this other stuff out the way and see this little nugget of something beautiful, something colorful, something that I can relate into something that's my language, that somebody could look at it and say, oh, that's Greta's work.
Yes. Right.
So, or that's your work. I think that especially what interests me as an Ethiopian woman, to know that your story is cultural, and it's very different. It's a very different cultural story because you have a very unique culture that is your own.
Right.
As African Americans, and let me just stop right there and say, as Black American women, we don't have that. We're not drawing on that same beauty, that same freedom that you have to be inherently yourself. Because we were taught from a young age, no, you can't be that. You have to be something else.
Right.
You know, you have to sit down and move back. And so that's all in my DNA. And I find it very interesting, the difference between, especially Ethiopian culture. It's just so free. It's so proud. It's a expression of pride that we as American Blacks are trying to get to.
We struggle.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting, because I think, right from your point of view, when she said freedom, I thought about your photos like immediately, and I was like, Red, take this one, right? Like I got a little excited and went like, what are your thoughts about that? Using the word freedom in describing your own rage and what that means to you.
And Greta, I like what you said about turning our rage into beauty.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think it matters where we come from, right? Our different backgrounds. I think we're all in our ways going through our own rage and turning that to beauty, right? And I think sometimes there's this idea that like the grass is greener somewhere else, right? And there are beautiful things I experience being in America, right? But there's also painful things African Americans have experienced in America, right? And when I go back home, it's the same thing. It's like I experience the beauty of just being free, but there are limitations, and there are things that I can't experience there that I enjoy experiencing here, right? And those are micro rages that exist.
Micro rages.
I like that.
Everywhere we are, right? Like, and then I think as maybe in life and work, there are different rages we experience in different, whatever our background is, we're experiencing rages. But I think as women, and like, I can even bring into being soft and feminine, is that like we could turn something so ugly and so full of rage and full of pain into beauty, and that's our power.
That is our power.
Yeah.
That is truly, to me, I mean, I look at historical women who changed history just because they were smart enough to take this man's point of view and say, okay, that's what you think? Okay.
Yeah.
But I have the power to turn you around and make you do other things that really are what should be done.
Yeah.
And make you think that it was your idea.
Right. Right.
That's the beauty of it.
And that
I mean, it's the power that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for sure.
Right. Yeah. I focus a lot on what we have, you know, turning a negative experience into a positive experience. And when you were speaking, I was actually thinking about the moments where I've had these like visceral rage inside of me. You know, when George Floyd got killed, you know, and we couldn't do anything because we were all quarantined. And to me, I wrote this piece where when I went out and saw the demonstration, in these small moments, there were people creating art, right? In small pockets of the streets, either drawing or painting or dancing or chanting or whatever it is, and it's how our rage is turned into, how art is able to turn our rage into creativity.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's very true. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I was in Amsterdam, and I go in this museum, and there's a portrait of this man, Paulus Roden, I think his name was. And he was the vice president or the president of the New Amsterdam Company, which was charged with bringing individuals over to this country in the 1700s. I'm looking at this man's face. There he is.
Right.
And he had this contract to bring over this specific number of people to this side of the world for 5 years. And when I added it up in my brain, I'm thinking, this is like millions of people. Okay, so I'm potentially looking at the man that made me stand right here where I'm standing today.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that piece of information, looking at that painting, made me so angry. And then I look at the next painting, and it's the painting of the governor of Curacao or some island nation where they were dropping people off. And that made me angry because you have this woman who's sitting there with all of this beautiful lace, this, that, and the third thing on.
Right.
And I'm going, well, you know, I'm thinking, how do the women who got off that boat, how did they feel? How did they get there? How did they make that journey? How did they make that passage? And it turned into a painting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know how it turned into a painting because a lot of times I will do things and I don't even remember what it is I'm doing because it's the feeling is very close and it's trying to get out. And it may be 3 o'clock in the morning and I have to have some sleep and I get up and it's like there.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I just think that, you know, that whole middle passage thing has been a catalyst for a lot of the pieces, like that piece over there. That's the catalyst for that piece, is my need to know, you know, how did those women make that happen? That horrific thing, to turn it into the beauty that is Black American women today.
It's a deep question. Yeah.
That is a deep question because I'll share with you an example. Oftentimes when I think about creating, I go, would my ancestors be proud of this? There's something about it. I'm always like, you know, if I can go back in time and share this thing, what would they think of me, this Black woman, and this freedom and luxury, I want to say that I have, to be able to create, to be able to tell this story for you know, with social media and everything, for people to see it and experience it. What would they say? What kind of critique would I receive? And I want it. Like, a part of me goes, I want to be critiqued. I know that is so odd, but what would my ancestors say about what I'm creating now? What can I do more or less of? What am I missing? Like, what are my blind spots in my creativity? Do you feel like at moments and times, as a woman in the arts, you got some blind spots as you're creating? Do you feel like I'm still not getting there? Like, I'm here, right here, but I want to jump over there and really kind of make this statement. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going with it. Is there any moments where you feel like, I got a blind spot, I'm not there yet?
Well, that means to me I have to step away from it.
Okay.
I had to step away and maybe read something,
Yeah.
watch something, go back and look at some pictures,
Yeah.
you know. I have a lot of pictures of my family and, you know, pictures of just my travels and things like that.
Yeah.
That's what you create. I mean, when you're building a studio, I don't know, but when you're building your artist studio, you start out with this, okay, I'm gonna go into this room and this is where I'm gonna do it. And then in a year, you look up and there's stuff hanging from the ceiling, there's, you know, I mean,
Right.
there's everything. And so you go back and you sit down and you look at those things that inspired you at some moment for you to pick it up and put it on the wall, or pick
Right.
it up and buy this book and read this book. Or, a lot of times that's what it is. To me, for me, it's like I have to step back.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it may not come to me for another month. But that piece is on the floor or on the easel or somewhere. And I will walk in there and go, oh, okay, that's what you wanted.
Right. Right. Right.
And now we can continue.
Mm.
And then it will say to me, okay, I'm done, you can stop now.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know how it is with a photographer. You're looking at I mean, I don't know if I could envision myself, if I was going to do that,
Yeah.
would be to be walking around and see something that I wanted to just say, okay, I want to save this little thing that's happening here forever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that's just so interesting to be able to have that ability, that way of capturing one little moment and keeping it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think as much as I want to create, usually I work on a series, so I photograph very intentionally, and
Yeah.
then the rest of the year is sort of my printing season, where I print the work, and sometimes it feels so serious, and it is like I have to create, to show, to sell, to all this, but also trying to find a moment where I'm creating for the beauty of it, and
Yeah.
being okay with making a mistake. For example, I love printing or painting on top of my print, adding another medium.
Right.
To be playful, I think it's hard maybe as a Black woman, because we're very considered to always have it together and be serious,
Yeah.
and be very do above and beyond, you know.
Right.
And sometimes it's I don't want to do above and beyond. I just want to be in my room and
Yeah.
paint, and maybe not show anybody. And that is for me to have, and it's not archival or
Right. It
you
doesn't
know,
affect anyone else.
It doesn't
It's
affect,
not
you know,
for you.
it's
It's
just-
for me. Right.
you know, to be
Yeah.
more playful with
Yeah.
it, and not very so serious that it's the end all be all. It has to be this, and
Yeah.
the expectation. I found that I put a lot of pressure on myself, actually, a lot more pressure than anybody else is, and I think it's exhausting sometimes. And I try to be playful with my work when I can.
Well, I think the most exacting taskmaster that you have is yourself.
Right.
You can't work for anybody that is going to make you as crazy as you're going to make yourself.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And it's difficult as an artist, right? Because you have to wake up and do it. You have to there's no one sort of maybe telling you to do it. You know.
But I've really reached a point in my life now where I know myself well enough and have been living within this framework long enough to say, okay, if you feel like working, work. If you feel like going to make coffee, make it.
Right.
If you feel like watching TV, watch.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
It's nice.
But all of those things are in my studio, so I can't move away from them, because
Right.
I know that if I go downstairs and make coffee, the studio is still calling me.
Yeah.
You know,
That's nice.
or if I go and decide I'm going to check my social media, there's Gmail is there too. So I check that, and there's 20, Greta, would you do this? Greta, would you do that? So now you got
Right.
certain things that you have to do. And so your brain doesn't really ever shut down from it. So sometimes I open my eyes or look around and it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
4, you know. So it's like living this creative existence does not mean that you live it from 9 to 5 or
Right.
you live it from
Yeah.
3 in the morning until
Right.
2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. It means you live it all the time.
Yeah. Do you find that exhausting?
I was gonna say that. I was like, and it feels exhausting.
Right. I mean,
Absolutely.
like, it's what you obviously love to do.
Right,
You know,
right.
to me, it's like, you know, at times it's exhausting because if you don't stop at some point and go to sleep, you're right, you can stay up till 3 o'clock.
Mhm.
You know, but when maybe you had a 9 to 5, like it is really 9 to 5, and you kind of just,
Yeah.
you know. But when you're an artist, I think it's never 9 to 5.
No.
You know.
How does that affect you guys' families? Like,
Right.
that has always been the challenge, right? Putting aside time to create, to just be. And then again, for me, I have daughters who I love and enjoy, but there are times where I'm like, no. Right here is the line. Do you see this wall, this invisible wall near the computer and mommy? And they're like, okay. And they entertain themselves. They've gotten it. You know, they've gotten it since they were small. But how hard is that?
But that's the
sometimes?
magic that women have. Okay, that is the magic. Because a
Right.
man could never do that. He could never say, okay,
Multitask.
like, let me get this little baby over here and pull him over there and make sure you eat and everything, but I also gotta do this over here and
And then this and
and
that
this and
tomorrow.
that. You know, we have to do
Right.
we have to do all of those things. So I remember there used to be a commercial on TV, and it was for a perfume, and the name of the perfume I will never forget was Aviance. And the whole frame of this commercial was, I am an Aviance woman, and they had this woman who was a businesswoman, and she was doing this and she was doing that, and she had 5 kids and this and that, but she was just gorgeous and everything, and doing it all.
Right.
With every hair in place and makeup and everything, and I just said, that's who I want to be.
Okay.
I want to be that woman.
Right.
I don't want anybody to be able to say, oh, you didn't do this. Yes, I did, and I did it well. And my hair was done. You know? But I think that as women, that's a power that we have.
Yeah.
And if you look back, I keep going, my historical DNA comes right to me. I mean, you look at women like Nefertiti. Now, this is one gorgeous person. I mean, if you look at her bust, you'd go, this person was actually walking the earth. I mean, she was so beautiful.
Yeah.
She was running the country. She had like all these kids. She was, I mean,
Right.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
And doing it well. Changing the world.
Wow.
So, yeah. That's what we have to do.
Yeah. Me and Red are like, we get it.
But we have that magic, and it happens.
Do you think there's a phase in a woman's life where that happens? Because I don't know, you know, like generationally, it's like let us know the secret. Like, when does it happen?
What is the
Because so we can prepare for it, you know, that kind of thing. Because when you're in the thick of it, it doesn't feel like you got it all together. It feels like the magic is somewhere else that you're finding. It's a treasure hunt. But what would you say to artists who are just coming to themselves, right? Just coming into their own, as well as to seasoned artists, about that experience? Because I think at times folks, I don't know, I've met a lot of artists who take 10 years off and go, yeah, I have not created in 10 years. I go, how are you back? What sparked that for you? Because I couldn't dare not create for 10 years.
Well, you have to know that art takes on a lot of forms. I mean, if you're meet a person who is a chef, they have a certain way of doing things, and it's very artistic. How is it on the plate? How is it this and that? Well, I had to cook for 5 kids and a demanding husband every day. He used to call me up at 3 o'clock. What's for dinner? Okay, so I have to look at this task that I have and say, all right, how am I going to put this on the plate? And then I started watching Iron Chef and all of, it just made me understand that food is an art. So you can very easily put that creativity to work in your home. You know, you can put that creativity to work in how you're putting your bathroom together. You can put that to work. So it's not like it died, it's just taking another form. And this is why I say that, you know, art is a lot of things. Like if you're an interior designer, you're putting together housing, you know, for people. Doesn't mean you're not an artist, it's another form of art. So I got to the point where I had to make my home my art. You know, doesn't always mean that I'm painting something. I may be writing something, you know. And you know, then you get to the point where you say, oh, you have to write a letter to the school. I'm going to write the letter of life because I want to make sure that all of the words that I'm using are correct, and you know, they're not, I got to the point where I didn't want to say that too many times, and I would edit the letter.
Gotcha.
So it's just how you live your life, and I believe that if you're creative, you live a creative life, and it doesn't ever let you go. It's always there. What are you going to put on those kids? How are you going to fix their hair? Oh, okay, let's get into that.
Until you let them be little artists themselves, and oh boy. What do you think, Red?
Wow, it's very inspiring what you just said, Greta. I mean, I definitely am inspired to sort of be like you. I am in nowhere shape there. I have always, I'm not a great multitasker. I've learned that early on. I could do one thing really well and invest a lot of my energy. And I think being very honest with you, I think when it came for me between my art and relationship, for example, I've always tended to pick the art. You know, and I think it's because it was consuming and very deterring from what I really love to do and who I am. As you said, like, if you're creative, you're creative. Like, it's inside of you. You know, it's who you are. And I don't think I've ever had to. I have a story actually for you I could share about my college boyfriend. Who's no more. Who's no more.
Give me a tea, pass it.
Who's no more in my life, obviously. But he got me into shooting analog photography, which I'm like so grateful for because I found my medium through him. You know, and then he also interned with a master printer that I got to know, and you know, I left the ex-boyfriend and I pursued the art and this type of printing, which is platinum palladium printing, which I've been enamored for like 15 years now. And I guess all to say that I can honestly own up and say that, like, for me, it hasn't been like your experience, you know. I've had to walk my own path, which was a lot of times saying no to the things that didn't feel like they could support me as an artist, you know? I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And thinking about the journey of a woman in the arts, it's sometimes having to say no to those things that society, I think, wants you to believe in and to attach yourself to. I think it's hard. It's hard. Like, it's so hard. My mother has an interesting story that's something like that, where she had to kind of choose one or the other a lot. And I was like, Mom, did you never thought to think we'll be fine and kind of go on this journey as an artist and a singer and a model? And she was just like, no. I just didn't trust anyone around me at the time to do what I need to do for you guys. And it's to this day I go, one day you're going to create for your mother, with your mother,
Right.
alongside of your mother, with your mother in mind, and her
Right.
story in mind.
Yeah.
Because it's so many things that she has yet to even touch that you
Right.
know for sure that if she touches it, the magic will kind of
It's
blossom
there.
from that. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And just to like put in a few words of my own there, it's,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes mothers special.
Yeah.
That, like, one of the things, I should say, not the only thing, obviously, is that can you imagine being a creative, born a creative? There's
Yeah.
something in you, whether you're a singer, a performer, an artist, a photographer, but saying like you're gonna put that down, you're gonna suppress it so you can, you know, raise your children, or, you know, take a 9-to-5 job and the sacrifice there, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me too, I feel sometimes I have to create to always, you know, want to impress and like make my mom proud, you know, because there is such a sacrifice that has been done for you that
Yeah.
you feel like you have to do,
Right.
you know, the
Yeah.
right thing, or so I always sent her, whether I'm published or I have an interview or something like that, I always have to send her the link, because
Of
this
course.
child in me is
Yeah,
always
same.
like, get my report card, work hard, and, you know, yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe vicariously she can live through me too, because
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that she's had to sacrifice her needs and desires, maybe what she wanted to do so she can raise us,
Yeah.
you know, and
yeah.
yeah, so I just wanted to add that to what
Yeah.
you were saying.
Can I just say that I have to say that for me, one of the most beautiful things that I did was to have children.
Yeah.
And there is a specific beauty in that that taught me. So, I mean, my first child was like my eyes opened this big, my brain exploded,
Right.
and I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a human being I can bring here.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, to me, that was the highest, that's the highest level of art.
Yeah.
You can make a person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that, I know a lot, especially now, I have nieces that are like in their 30s and, you know, inching up to 40, and what am I gonna do? I can't stop. Yes, you can. You can stop and do anything you want. You are in charge. That's how I felt. I'm in charge. I can do this. I can still do all of the things that I want to do, and I could make a person on top of it.
Yeah.
I could even make 2 or 3. You know?
Yeah.
And I think about those women on that boat. What are they going to do? You know, I mean, how they were forced to make people, you know.
Right.
So you have to find in that whole forced attitude this beautiful little person that you can make. You know, there's beauty in that. And I think that if you don't experience that, I mean, that's kind of why as women we're here, is to make sure that there'll be other people here next week. If you don't experience that, it's like a little tiny part that you kind of, you know, you get to the point you say, dang, I wish I had done that, you know. But there's no reason why, if you feel that way, you can't. There's no, I'm here to tell you there's no reason why. And there's nothing to be upset about if you decide, no, that's not what I want to do. But to me, it was just like an eye-opening thing that let me know that I can do anything. I'm magic. You know,
We're
I
our
can do
own
anything.
curators.
Yeah.
Speaking of curators, here we go. When was the first time you ever worked with a female curator, a woman curator?
Curator.
Yeah, where you got a chance to tell another woman your story and your vision for your work.
Well, I would say that I have mostly worked with female curators.
Okay.
Women understand my work. Adrian understands my work, and I love Adrian because he's very unique. But I've mostly worked with women curators, and except this one French guy, I work with him a lot. But I find them to be more concerned about the economics of the situation, not the beauty in the situation, if that makes sense. Female curators tend to be interested in the beauty of the situation. They have, because they're just, it's just a different way of thinking, you know. Men look at, I mean, they look at women, objectify the body, objectify, you know, certain other things, and then when it comes down to it, can I sell it and make some money off of it, or, you know, whatever. And that's what it is. But most women that I've ever, even women, historical women, you look at women like Georgia O'Keeffe, she didn't care if she sold anything. She just wanted to create. The person that cared whether she sold anything was Alfred Stieglitz. He cared.
Right.
So she had a male curator that said, crank that out, let's go. Female curators really, to me, don't have that kind of attitude towards the art.
Right.
To me.
I think that. Yeah. I'm a curator, so I'll share my thoughts in a second. I was like, I'll let you ladies go first, and then I'll give you my secret. How I work with women and the difference. But what do you think, Ray?
Well, you are the first female curator I worked with, because I just recently, in the past 3 years or so, started to share my art with the world in gallery spaces. Personally, my experience, even if you weren't here, Jolie, I would say was the most positive, obviously, and I felt understood, and for a very long time I didn't want to share my work because I didn't know how. I'm very close to my work. They're my babies, actually. I call them my babies. I'm very protective over it and how it's interpreted, and so for me to be able to show in this space, and for Jolie, for you to be my curator and understand me. I was in Ethiopia at that time, and like our communication was so great on email and corresponding and everything. Even Adrian, it's just so great, and it put that ease, and I was able to just like relax and say, okay, I could trust them, I could give them my babies, and they will do a wonderful job, and you guys did, obviously. And I've had, after that experience with female curators, and you're right, in the sense that they see the beauty, and I like to talk about that stuff, you know. I'm not great at talking about the money part of it, you know, I'm not at all, actually. I get so passionate about my work and talking about the story and the women and the amount of time it took me to do it and to print it, to get one print right in the dark room, you know, and so sometimes I cry and it's like so painful, and then when I see the image come out and the developer, it makes me so excited. You know, I love to talk about the experience. But I think I've realized that you have to have a curator that could see also both. That they can understand that part of you, but they will also you know, sell it and then too. I like that. But yeah, Jolie, what do you have to say about that?
I'll be honest, as a new woman of the arts, I would say that I've loved art since I was very young. So I've always had this admiration from a distance of what art was. Like if I was in a room full of art, I was good. There was music, I was good. There was dance, I was good. There was writing, I was good. But I thought, who are you? You're just a person who thinks it's good. What if you turned this into something like great? Like what if you were a person who had the power to turn good into great? What would that look like? If you were able to bring people into the room and force them to see what you see. Like really force them to, like walk around and see what I see. I'm forcing you to do it. I said so. That's my little power. And I kind of like that feeling. That was where my superpower lied, is that if I listened to the artist's and allow the artist to just speak. Don't stop them. Because if you stop an artist, they'll never speak to you again. If you if you stop an artist in mid-thought and begin to talk about something else in your vision, they're not going to talk to you again. So I took the art of listening and forced myself, you're going to stop and you're going to listen to this artist speak. Wherever they go, you follow, like you would do if you were, curating. So wherever the artist landed, I would follow and I would pick up these jewels. Before you knew it, I had a title, I had a vision, I know how to set up the room. And it's because I listened to the little jewels and the things the artist may not get a chance to see, because you're just talking, right? You're just sharing your story. And I said, I think I got it. And I like these aha moments as a curator. It's like, aha, I know what we can do. Yeah. Not this photo, the other one. I guarantee you that one's gonna sell in 20 minutes of the your opening weekend. And yes, it did, right? But I knew that already. Yeah. That wasn't a piece that was gonna make it in, but I said, put it in. Let's just see what it can do. Yeah. So that's the magic of knowing where you can take the audience if they allow you to. And for those who walk into gallery spaces and art venues, if you allow the curator to take you on a journey, we're going to take you all the way there. Mm-hmm. What's nice is if you pull your checkbook out at the same time to support women in the arts, right? Mm-hmm. And I like that too. Mm-hmm. I may not tap you on the shoulder and say, this is how much it costs, but I want you to know this does have a price tag on it. Yeah. Dearly noted. Like note that this is not for free. Right. That our stories are not for free. Mm-hmm. That women's stories and their experiences and the love and their babies, they're not for free. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind as you love on the art, right? And I think that's what kind of is the beauty of it. And I keep that in the back of my mind that, I know all the numbers, but I know that this ain't free. So force them to enjoy this and to experience this work. And let the artist just watch. Let the artist watch and allow their work to be like, awakening. They're like, oh, I didn't know they felt that way. Good. I did though. So yeah.
Well, I think this is one of the very special things about this space. Yeah. Is that everybody who's in this space in a professional capacity understands why they are there. Mm. And if you understand why you are in a specific place, right, and you do what you are in that place to do, and everybody in the place is doing what they're there to do, then you have success. Mm. Because I am a proponent of staying in my lane. This is my lane, I'm in it, I'm staying in it. The curatorial aspect of it, you are brilliant at that. So, as long as you're in that lane, I'm comfortable. Mr. Ferguson is brilliant at what he does. Because somebody could be asking me the story of a painting, and I'm going to tell them the story of the painting. Right. And I could tell you the story of the painting because I created that. Mm-hmm. You want to talk to them about taking it home and loving on it yourself? Talk to him. Right. And that's where you have success, because everybody is doing what they know to do and not trying to step on your toes or anybody else's toes. And they're doing what they have to do and doing a great job at it, and what happens is greatness.
As we wrap up a little, right, as we draw a conclusion to Women's History Month, Women in the Arts, Greta, again, your show will be going on for another month, and we will see you very, very soon. I'm very excited to see what you have up your sleeve. I wanted to talk about the dream. As women in the arts, what is the dream? What is the dream show? What is the dream experience? What are you looking to create next? As well as, what would you say to a young woman who looks like you, who's had a similar experience as you? What would you say to her when it comes to what she wants to do and how she sees herself in the arts? This is a two-parter. Your dream, what would you say to a woman who is a future artist?
I guess my dream would be to be able to continue to do this and have another vision, have another idea, have another inspiration, which means I have to take another trip. Yes. Which means I have to do something else. So that dream turns into another dream, turns into another dream, turns into another dream. And I don't ever want to stop dreaming.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And as long as I can, I will dream on. And I don't know where it's going next. I
That's
know.
the beauty of it.
That's like the excitement of it.
Yeah.
You know, where's it going next? And then I just hope and pray that what I'm doing, and I really do feel passionate, if you're doing something in life that you feel passionate about, if your job is something you love,
Yeah.
it will reward you. The universe will just drop it on you because you're doing what you love to do. So
Yeah.
as long as I love doing what I love to do, I'm continuing to move around and look at different things and have different ideas and not close my mind off, then I feel like it will continue.
Yeah. How about you, Ed? Your dream?
My dream is to, I would love to have wider audience, whether it's here in DC or other major states or internationally.
Yeah.
I love showing my work in Ethiopia. My connection there is strong, and I love taking my work to be seen there too. And I feel like my story deserves to be seen.
Yes.
Point blank. It's from my point of view, and I really enjoy doing what I really truly think that I'm created to do this. It
Yeah.
feels right. I've done other things, but this one feels
right.
to be able to be healthy enough to continue. My birthday's coming up, so for another year, it's just such a blessing to be able to be fine enough to do it, right?
Yeah,
To be
yeah.
okay enough to do it. But also for the future and for others, I have a huge heart for the youth and for kids like me that were curious about certain things but are not given the tools and the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So I would love to be able to teach or workshop or mentor and have kids come see my show also, because I think, or youth come see my show, and just being able to talk to women also that are preoccupied with their life to really discover who they really are and be bold enough to take the step to pursue what it is that they want to pursue. So, yeah, that's my...
I love that. I love that. I love ending with bold enough. As we talk about women in the arts, it's something about us being bold and brave, carrying it with grace and beauty, and have a little rage. Love rage. I love rage. Be passionate about something to move it forward, right? To be passionate about that dream enough to want to create. So I say thank you. Thank you to you, ladies. Canvas Conversations is still something that's very new to Art of Noise, but something very intimate where we bring people close and we go, what is it? So thank you, ladies. Thank you for being contributors to women in the arts. Thank you for creating history. We appreciate you. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cut.